Imagine sitting in your living room enjoying some television when suddenly an unknown object crashes through the roof and strikes you in the hip. From raining blood to dead birds, boiled bats, and more, join us as we explore 20 of the scariest things that fell from the sky. Number 20. Falling fish. In Mexico in September of 2017, the weather forecast predicted light rain, but what residents experienced went beyond mere precipitation. It also included the unusual occurrence of small fish falling from the sky. This phenomenon of aquatic life descending from the heavens is not unprecedented. Numerous real-life instances have been well documented where fish or frogs have rained down from the sky, and scientists say it's because of exceptionally strong winds that are created by waterspout tornadoes. One notable incident from the 20th century is the Great Fish Fall of Marksville in October of 1947. Witnesses reported hearing noise as fish fell onto tin roofs that led to widespread shock and fear amongst the impending apocalypse. The fish, up to 9 inches long, fell between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Despite calm weather that morning, earlier tornado reports and the presence of freshwater fish indicated a connection to the unusual event. Similar things have happened all over the world at various times, and the phenomenon surprisingly has historical roots that extend well beyond centuries. Number 19. Blood rain. It was an ordinary day in Spain, with rain falling in the usual clear and cool manner, attracting minimal attention. Suddenly, however, rainwater started to collect in basins, and fountains underwent a startling transformation, changing from colorless to a murky and rusty red within a few hours. Concerns would arise from residents speculating about potential chemical dumping, with some viewing it through a religious lens, feeling that it might be a plague sent by an angry deity. Instances of blood rain, much like the raining of fish, are infrequent but not uncommon. In September of 2001, red rain fell in India, leading researchers to consider meteor dust and even alien involvement. Ultimately, a government report said the phenomenon was due to algal-borne algae spores. In another occurrence, red liquid continually seeps from a crack in Antarctica's Taylor Glacier known as the Blood Falls. However, the substance is neither blood nor pure red water. It's an iron-rich brine that oxidizes upon exposure to the fresh air, leaving a rust-like color. In 2014, blood rain fell in Spain, and a concerned resident sent samples to scientists at a university. Upon examination, they discovered particles of a green freshwater algae that turns red when experiencing chemical stress. In fact, it's often been nicknamed blood rain algae. Identifying the algae did raise questions, as it's not native to the region and cannot be found in any nearby bodies of water. Scientists would conclude that the algae must have traveled a considerable distance before reaching the village fountains. They examined wind patterns and other meteorological data in an attempt to trace it back to its source, but they were unable to pinpoint a specific location. Number 18. Raining candy. Another peculiar historical incident took place in 1857 when Lake County in Northern California witnessed an unusual event not once, but twice. In September of that year, the town experienced a phenomenon described as raining candy. Lumps or crystals of sugar, ranging in size from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, fell all throughout the area. Reportedly, residents wasted no time in turning the fallen candy into syrup. It showcased people's willingness to consume anything that falls from the sky, and also led some to speculate that it may have been aliens attempting to entice residents into their celestial vehicles. Another conspiracy theory suggests that anyone who consumed that substance had their body changed by the sugar crystals. Number 17. Meat from the sky. In another bizarre event, people in Bath County, Kentucky saw meat falling from the sky in 1876. Olympia Springs experienced what has become known as the Kentucky meat shower, where flakes of raw meat, some as large as a few square inches, descended from the sky and accumulated on the ground. 2 unidentified men sampled the meat and identified it as either venison or mutton. An initial hypothesis would suggest that the substance may have not been meat, but rather a colony of bacteria in a protective gelatinous covering. Later examinations would confirm the presence of actual meat tissue, including what was likely lung tissue from a horse. The predominant explanation shifted to propose that the meat had resulted from a group of vultures regurgitating in the sky. The individuals who tasted the meat may have had second thoughts upon learning that they may have consumed the vomited lung of a buzzard. A specimen from the Kentucky meat shower is on display at Transylvania University's museum. Number 16. Birds falling. In November of 1976, hundreds of blackbirds and pigeons were found dead in the streets of the coastal town of San Luis Obispo, California. The discovery, made by a street sweeper during his early morning rounds, encountered what was described as several hundred dead birds clogging the streets. The unsettling phenomenon continued, with birds falling and perishing all throughout the morning and sporadically over the next 2 days. The estimated death toll of the feathered creatures reached 400 to 600. At this point, one may reasonably suspect alien involvement, however, the reality is much less sensational. Popular Mechanics reported that a nearby university had deployed poison grains in a field to reduce the local bird population, and while their intention may have been to control the birds, the outcome resulted in this terrifying ordeal. Number 15. A human body. In 2012, a body would be discovered crumpled on the sidewalk near a convenience store in West London. Initially, authorities suspected a murder, but further investigation would suggest the body had likely been dropped there. The incident occurred in a neighborhood close to Heathrow Airport. The plausible scenario is that the man, likely from the African nation of Angola based on the currency found in his pockets, had stowed away on a jetliner. Unfortunately, he fell out when the plane lowered its landing gear upon approaching the airport. Moreover, the man probably succumbed to the harsh conditions of the undercarriage of the plane, experiencing a lack of pressurization and oxygen, which may have resulted in his demise within the first hour of the flight. Number 14. A shark. San Juan Capistrano, located 2 miles from the California coast, found itself with an unexpected visitor on a golf course in October of 2012. A 2-foot leopard shark would be discovered in the middle of the green by a golf course employee. The attendant took it upon himself to transport the shark back to the Pacific Ocean, a distance approximately 5 miles away. Initially presuming the shark to be lifeless, he released it into the water, and to his surprise, it remained motionless for a few moments before executing a twist and swiftly darting off into the water. The prevailing belief is that the shark had become prey to a large bird, possibly an osprey or a falcon, which subsequently lost its grip. Notably, 2 bleeding puncture marks were observed near the fish's dorsal fin, which may be where the large bird grabbed it from. Number 13. Spider rain. We'll now go to Brazil, where an unusual meteorological event occurred. This was a phenomenon known as spider rain. In a video that circulated widely on the internet, a photographer documented thousands of spiders traversing up and down silk threads affixed to telephone pole wires. The footage gave the impression of a shower, or perhaps light snow, as spiders descended upon the bewildered residents below. The photographer captured this video as he was concluding coverage of an engagement party. Witnessing such an occurrence for the first time, he was taken aback by the surreal scene.
Meu Deus!
According to a biologist, the phenomenon is not as unusual as it may seem. They note that the type of spider is inherently social, typically inhabiting trees during the day and constructing expansive webs in the late afternoon and early evening. This forms giant sheets to ensnare unsuspecting insects. While scientists have cataloged around 40,000 spider species globally, only a handful exhibit social behavior. The behavior of these spider species, which are spread across the globe, is reminiscent of swarming insects like ants or bees. With their colonies, the females will outnumber the males by a ratio of 10 to 1, and they can surpass 50,000 individuals. Around Sao Paulo and its neighboring cities, witnessing a sky covered with spiders is a common occurrence. The species in question is prevalent from Panama to Argentina and forms colonies that consist of thousands of spiders. Each one is roughly the size of a pencil eraser. Their webs can span from the ground up to tree canopies or human structures, reaching heights of 65 feet. When strong winds disrupt these webs, they may detach from their anchors, carrying the spiders and their homes to new locations, giving the appearance of spiders raining down. In this case, while onlookers marveled from below, the disoriented spiders were simply regaining their composure after an unexpected journey from the forest or park. Number 12. Jelly from space. Now we'll talk about the phenomenon known as star jelly. These are reports of a mysterious substance that appears during celestial events that can be traced back over 700 years. Various sources attribute this jelly to phenomenon like meteor showers and extraterrestrial activities. An 1846 report would suggest that a UFO had left a pile of the substance after hovering near the ground, and similarly in 2009 a report out of Scotland claimed that witnesses had observed strange goo falling from the sky onto local hills. Subsequent testing would reveal that it was actually undigested reproductive systems of local frogs and lizards, consumed by birds and then later regurgitated. Number 11. Tunguska Incident. On June the 30th of 1908 at around 7:15 a.m., an asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded over Siberia. Local reindeer herders, the few who bore witness from such a distance of 20 miles away, recounted observing a fireball with a trailing plume of smoke. This celestial occurrence was followed by an exceptionally bright flash, surpassing the intensity of the sun, and a thunderous noise. Those near the event experienced being propelled into the air, rendering themselves unconscious, with their homes sustaining damage or complete destruction. Fortunately, due to the sparse population, human casualties were left at a minimum, although significant losses were incurred amongst reindeer herds. Eyewitnesses would report witnessing a substantial column of smoke ascending into the sky. Once the asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere, it was said to have a diameter of 130 feet, and the explosion occurred at an altitude of about 6 miles. However, the first scientific expedition to investigate the aftermath did not reach the area until 1927. Number 10. Purple goo. In 1979, a woman in Texas claimed to have discovered a lawn covered in star jelly, which coincided with the night of a meteor shower, and the substance was said to have exhibited a purple hue. Rather than saying that it was space debris, an investigation into the source would suggest that it likely originated from a plant located outside of the area. This facility employed a chemical process to refine lead in batteries, which resulted in the purple byproduct. A shifting in wind had led to an unconventional deposit on the lady's front lawn, and despite the explanation, some maintained a skeptical stance. Number 9. Meteor that hit a person. On the afternoon of November 30th, 1954, residents in Talladega County, Alabama, observed a fiery object going through the sky, with some noting a substantial explosion upon impact. Ann Elizabeth Hodges was unaware of the events as she was napping on her living room couch when it crashed through the ceiling, striking a console radio and then colliding with her hip. Awoken by the pain and the noise, she initially thought a gas space heater had exploded. Upon discovering a grapefruit-sized rock on the floor and a ragged hole in the roof, she suspected mischievous children were to blame. Her mother rushed outside and only witnessed a black cloud in the sky. Residents in and around the area perceived the incident differently, with many reporting a fireball in the sky and a tremendous explosion that generated a cloud. The prevailing assumption was that it involved an airplane accident. It turned out to be a meteor, and Hodges only suffered a bruise, became the first documented human to be struck by a meteorite. The event triggered a nationwide media frenzy and a year-long legal dispute. The meteorite, weighing approximately 8.5 pounds, is now permanently exhibited in a museum at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Number 8. Mud shower. Clouds from an extensive dust storm in Illinois in April of 1902 reached such dimensions that they were propelled into the sky and carried all across the eastern United States. When they traveled and encountered rain clouds, they then precipitated in a form of a mud shower. Although the event only lasted a few minutes, it did garner significant attention. A correspondent described the peculiar incident, and people on the streets found themselves covered in mud, and clothing hung on lines were smeared. Another person conveyed that the storm front spanned 40 miles, saying that it discolored or soiled everything that was exposed to it. The Pittsburgh Press reported that the morning shoppers, especially women, faced the brunt of the phenomenon with their spring garments ruined. Goods displayed in front of stores suffered damage from the material, which turned out to be red sand with a paste-like consistency. After the brief shower, the sidewalk resembled that of leopard skin, requiring considerable effort from merchants to restore its appearance. Number 7. Boiled bat rain. In Australia, the bats faced an unfortunate consequence during the scorching heat wave in January of 2018, which literally fried their brains. The record-breaking heat reached 113 degrees Fahrenheit and led to the demise of hundreds, if not thousands of bats, causing them to fall from the trees. They essentially underwent a boiling process which impacted their brains and eventually rendered them incoherent. The flying fox, acknowledged as Australia's largest bat, holds a vulnerable status nationally, and its survival is considered to be at a critical priority under local law. This was the hottest day on record in Sydney, Australia since 1939, with the Penrith suburb reaching a temperature of 47.3 degrees Celsius. The New South Wales Wildlife Information Rescue and Education Service expressed concerns that harsh conditions could lead to the loss of thousands of bats. Number 6. Money. Now, this one may not be scary for the people receiving the rain, but it definitely is for the people making it. Instances of money raining down have occurred at various times in history. In 2015, Kuwait City witnessed hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of UAE currency showering over the city. Similarly, in Serbia in 2018, a plane transporting gold and diamonds accidentally spilled its cargo all over the airport runway. The Antonov An-12, a Cold War-era cargo aircraft, had deported from the airport in Siberia, carrying an estimated $378 million in gold, platinum, and diamonds for a private mining company. The cargo hatch tore open during takeoff, causing nearly 200 gold bars to be scattered in the air. Although most of the gold bars would land on the airport runway, the plane continued flying for another 10 miles before making an emergency landing at a nearby airport, leaving a trail of cargo. Fortunately, no injuries were reported following the incident, and the majority of the spilled treasure was successfully recovered. According to an official statement from the airport, the wind damaged part of the plane's cargo hatch during takeoff. Photographs taken at the scene would indicate segments of the plane's fuselage torn away and scattered in the nearby snow. The Russian transportation authorities would suggest the plane's crew may have been at fault, speculating that they might have inadequately secured the cargo hold before takeoff. Consequently, the maintenance crew faced detention for further questioning. In a similar turn of events in Indianapolis in 2017, an electrician observed approximately $200 worth of bills being swept off a roof where he was working. Similar to instances in Kuwait and Indianapolis, the source of the money remains unknown. Number 5. Falling frogs. In 2005, thousands of tiny frogs descended upon a town located 120 kilometers northwest of Belgrade in northwestern Siberia due to storm clouds propelled by strong winds. Rather than rain, witnesses would see the peculiar sight of countless numbers of frogs falling from the sky. These frogs, distinct from the local amphibians, not only survived the descent but also hopped around in search of water. A climatologist from Belgrade described the phenomenon as relatively common, attributing it to winds that resemble tornadoes, which can draw in lightweight objects from the surface or shallow waters, typically dust but occasionally larger items. Number 4. Iguanas. In South Florida in 2018, frozen iguanas rained during a cyclone, causing historic cold temperatures along the U.S. East Coast. The region experienced temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, resulting in Tallahassee's first measurable snowfall in 28 years. Amidst all the unusual weather, reports out of Florida included bizarre sights of frozen iguana bodies falling from trees and covering suburban ground. Social media posts displayed images of the green reptiles laying motionless on lawns, giving the impression of being lifeless. However, most of them were likely not dead, but in a state of extreme cold-induced lethargy. Number 3. Golf balls. In 1969, Punta Gorda, Florida experienced an unusual incident where numerous golf balls rained down from the sky. There were no local golf courses that reported missing any balls, although the exact cause would never be established. Most experts would speculate that a waterspout had lifted the balls out of a retention pond that had been hid in by wayward golfers. The area had seen a heavy downpour, and when the clouds cleared, the gutters were not only flowing with water but also with golf balls. A team of at least 4 police officers took it upon themselves to collect the balls, amassing a significant haul before eventually getting tired and abandoning the effort. However, the mystery of the origin of the balls remains unsolved. Number 2. Gelatinous goo. In January of 2012, during a hailstorm in Dorset, UK, a man experienced a shower of small blue goo spheres falling from the sky. These 1-inch gelatinous spheres, observed during a fast-breaking hailstorm, lacked odor, stickiness, and meteorological relevance, and essentially there was no concrete understanding of their nature. Steve Hornsby, a former aircraft engineer, noticed around a dozen of these blue balls scattered in his yard during the hailstorm, and he collected samples in a jar. Initially speculated by scientists to be the eggs of a marine creature, it would later be determined that they were actually a substance used in gardens and diapers for water absorption. Number 1. Chelyabinsk meteor. In February of 2013 at 9:20 a.m., residents of Chelyabinsk, Russia, witnessed a rare event, the explosion of an asteroid in the Earth's atmosphere. This incident was inadvertently well documented due to the popularity of dashboard cameras in cars across Russia at the time. Numerous recordings would capture the meteor and the intense flash resulting from its explosion. The asteroid involved in this event had a diameter of approximately 66 feet and entered the atmosphere at a relatively shallow angle, moving at a speed of over 42,000 miles per hour. Now, upon entering the atmosphere, it ignited and exploded less than 19 miles above the Earth's surface. The explosion would produce a flash momentarily brighter than that of the sun, and a shock wave estimated to have released energy equivalent to 500 kilotons of TNT. Now roughly 30 times more energy than the atomic bomb that detonated Hiroshima. Fortunately, it occurred at a sufficient altitude, and most of its energy dissipated into the atmosphere. If the explosion had taken place at a lower altitude, or if it had reached the ground intact, the potential damage could have been catastrophic. However, the explosion did have repercussions. It generated a shock wave that went through the atmosphere, causing damage to over 7,000 buildings in 6 cities, resulting in 1,500 people having to seek medical attention at local hospitals and clinics. Most injuries were due to curiosity, as people witnessed the bright flash and approached their windows to observe. The shock wave, arriving later at a slower speed, had shattered windows, which caused injuries from flying glass. One unsettling aspect of the event was that it caught everyone by surprise. The asteroid went undetected until it was already speeding through the Earth's atmosphere, mainly because it approached from the direction of the sun, which concealed its glare. So, who knows what else Mother Nature may send from the sky, and if we'll even be able to see it coming. As always, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss any videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.